Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for traveling wherever you travel from to come to QP Workshop 2017. This is our second year doing this workshop, and we're really excited for the schedule of events today with our speakers and panelists. To introduce ourselves, for those who don't know, my name is Tomayia Dixon-Smith.
This is Sierra Collins right here.
And we're the co-founders of the Queen Photographers. So we started this group a couple of years ago now. We met at a Brown Girl for Camera event in Greenville. We invited the founder, Ruby Melton, to come to Greenville to do a portfolio building experience. And we just had such a great time with all the photographers who came out.
Some of you were there.
Some of y'all were there from the very beginning. And so we did not want that to end. So we decided to start a group where we could meet regularly, meet up, kind of learn more about photography and to improve in our photography businesses. So initially we started out with QPSC.
Right.
But then others from other states and cities were like, hey, we wish we had something like this in our city and state. So we decided to expand, and that's how we became the Queen Photographers. But we started out with QPSC Takes Charleston last year. Serena, wherever she is. Serena did such a wonderful job with that last year. You were there, you know. And so we definitely had to come back and bring it again with another workshop this year. We decided to host it in Nashville. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off. We're going to go around the room very quickly. Just tell us your name and where you're from.
I'm Sharitha Emanuel. Y'all might, if I'm friends with you on Facebook, I'm Sharitha Monique from Sharitha Monique Photography. I'm from Charlotte.
She's talking from Spring, South Carolina.
Charleston.
Lenitra Simmons from Charleston.
Natalie Ravenel from Charleston.
Mia Keisha Braden, call me Keisha though, from Charlotte, Indian Land.
And Gambrell from Greenville.
Okay, we'll start up here again.
Kiami Hill from Greensboro, North Carolina.
Chanel Majors from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Jessica Corbin from Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh. Sorry. James Robinson, Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh my gosh. You got no ADHD. Keisha Coleman Smalls from Charleston, South Carolina.
Denise Benson from Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Kristen Gordon from Columbia, South Carolina.
Sasha Johnson from Walden, South Carolina.
Michelle Terry from Greenville, South Carolina.
Stacy Smith from Piedmont.
Renee Wilson from Simpsonville, South Carolina.
Angela Grant from Greenville, South Carolina.
Willie Eddy, Greenville, South Carolina.
Erica Sharper,
Malden, South Carolina.
Letitia Ravenel, Columbia, South Carolina.
Michelle Mish Flowers, Gastonia, North Carolina.
All right.
Judy Brewster from Greenville, South Carolina. And I'm Serena White Singleton from Charleston, South Carolina.
And over here, Mr. Donald.
Oh, Donald Wilson, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone from all corners of the Southeast where you've come from. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off with our panel. And the topic or the theme for our panel discussion this morning is how to stand out in a saturated market. I'm sure many of you know there's lots of photographers everywhere, but we've decided to bring both photographers and leaders in other industries to come out and share with us how they stand out in their markets. So we'll start off with them introducing themselves. Tell us your name, where you're from, your business, and your business.
So you looked at me, so I guess So I'm Margaux Weinstock. I'm probably one of the only non-photographers here. I own a bridal shop in Asheville called Wildflower Bridal. So I obviously live in Asheville. I'm originally from New York, but I've called Asheville home for about 10 years.
I am Tomayia Colvin from Houston, Texas. I am a 95% high school senior photographer, 5% weddings for the people that I like. Teacher, author. I think that's it. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Candice Johnson. Sorry you guys had to wait on me. I was coming from Columbia. I'm not a photographer either. I'm a blogger. I'm the music and entertainment director at Corktastic.co. And then I write my personal blog called But I'm Not a Critic Though, and it's a music blog whose mission is to provide positive and unique perspectives to a music society.
Hello everyone, I am Kesha Williams. If you've seen me on Facebook, you know me as that girl Keisha. I have a multitude of things that I do, but I'm a photographer. I mostly shoot small business now, businesses that are looking to rebrand or either update or get started. I also shoot boudoir. I make button earrings. I do events. So yeah, I do a lot of things, but I'm from Greenville.
All right, and last but not least, I'm Tara. I'm a disabled veteran. My husband is currently still active duty. Drove this morning from Savannah, so I've been up really, really long. If I get super sleepy, just let me know. I do anything family and event related within the military community, so if you guys watch social media, which I know you do, the 10 Army Moms in Uniform Breastfeeding, that one's mine, and we'll talk about that in the panel.
Awesome. Well, thank you ladies for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time here. So we're going to kick it off, and we'll go in the same order that you introduce yourself to answer the questions. So the first one is just tell us about how you got started in business and in your business.
So I guess how I got started in business is, again, being from New York. My background was in the fashion industry, and I grew up always knowing that I wanted to be in fashion. And then I met a boy, moved to Asheville to be with him, and then realized pretty quickly that if I wanted to stay in Asheville, which I did, I needed to switch careers. And when I did that, I ended up going to grad school for social work. And during that time, we got engaged. And then I became a bride-to-be, and so I discovered the wedding industry at that time, and I just fell in love with the wedding industry. And it was then that I discovered that this is how I can do fashion in Asheville. This is how fashion can, translate in Asheville. And I was looking for wedding dresses, and there was nothing in Asheville that really spoke to me. So I saw a void in the market, and I felt like I could really fill that void. I was the right person to do that. And so, but I was in grad school at the time. I didn't want to stop what I was doing. I had invested time and money in that. And so I was I'm going to continue with grad school. And so I graduated, worked in the field for a few years. And I don't know if anyone else here has any kind of background in social work or healthcare or whatnot, but it is a grueling field. So I got burnt out pretty quickly. And that dream of the bridal shop was still very much alive in me. And so I was I'm going to do it, because if I don't do it, someone else will, and then I will kick myself in the butt for the rest of my life. I am that kind of person that I'm always a what if person. So I kind of live my life of I make decisions based on what if I don't do this? So so I basically I just made it happen and opened the store, and that was 3.5 years ago. And we specialize in boho bridal couture. And I will say that the vision that I opened the store with is not exactly where we are now, and that's because I cater to the customer that exists as opposed to the customer that I had dreamt up in my head. Mm-hmm. So. Right, yeah, so it's it's transitioned a little bit along the way, and I'm totally cool with that, because I'm in the business of making people happy and also making money, and I wouldn't be making money if I was trying to kind of force this vision I had of this customer that doesn't really exist in this market. Mm-hmm.
My turn. Yep. I will honestly say I am not a morning person, so I'm struggling. So I am Tomayia. The question is, how did I get started in photography? I am a tenured teacher veteran, and walked away from my full-time job to pursue this idea that I could photograph kids. So I was a middle school and high school teacher. The high schoolers are what drove me out. And so started taking pictures and just really fell in love with it. And one day God just really said, it's time for you to go. And I've been fighting for it for a very long time, like, you crazy. Jesus, you're nuts. But I walked away with no idea what the hell I was going to do, but just followed this leap of faith that he said. So I've been on this journey 5 years, 3 years full-time photography. I really have a true passion for education, and I saw, just like Margaux, that there is a need for education for photographers and for women of color. I noticed that the faces of women of color are missing in the photography industry. So I made it my point to be the face for a while, to work my way up so that I can make sure that our voices are heard. And so, like Serena and I, we were in the bed, not together, but we were in the bed. We were in the bed. Like last night, they probably still heard us talking at midnight, 1 a.m. Talking, and my phone is going off. People looking for African American women of color to be speakers at their conference, and so just filling the void where there is, and kind of like where God says where it's supposed to be. And so now I've opened up my online school for photography, Tomayia Colvin Education, and I made myself the executive director. Just so that I can be sure to be providing quality education for women of color, and just with minority speakers and instructors, because we're missing out of the entire face of the industry, period. So that's a bit about me.
Okay, I am Candice, and I'm not a photographer, again. I'll probably bounce back talking about Corktastic.co and Binet, which is my personal blog, so I don't want to confuse you. So Corktastic started in October of 2014 as Corky Brown Love, and the mission that Brian DeLaw, the founder, wanted to do is to encapsulate all positive images of, women, men and women of color. So that's what her initial website was, and it ran for 2 years until she transitioned to Corktastic.co in December 2016. So she honed in more on the mission of catering to quirky millennials of color. And you might know some of her pieces. She did a list of photographers in every state, and that was where I think Denise was featured. Zoe, were you featured too?
Kristen.
Okay.
Others.
So there were a couple of photographers in this room that were featured on that post, and a lot of her posts go viral now on Corktastic. But in 2016 is when she honed in on the mission to cater to specifically quirky millennials of color, millennials being, born after 90. And she, but I mean, it doesn't mean that it's, just like how Margaux was saying about the audience, that's like the target audience, but it's not saying, no, you can't read our poster, no, you can't join our, our group, because we're very inclusive. But she started because she's actually, initially she was going to be a doctor. And we have similar stories, because I graduated with a degree in finance, she graduated with a biology degree and started working as a cytogenic technician. And she just quit her job to pursue the blog full time maybe 2 weeks ago. But she saw a void in the market where there were no people of color or little people of color being represented, and she wanted to bring those positive images. And she specifically told me that around the time of Trayvon Martin, when all of the media was negative surrounding Black people in general, she wanted to bring something positive to media, so she wanted to do something, and that's how Corky Brown Love got started, and then further honed it to Corktastic.co.
Awesome. My story's not that fancy. My journey in photography started around 2005. I picked up this little Fuji camera, point and shoot, nothing fancy. Did a photo shoot with my cousin out at by the Cigar Warehouse now downtown, where Zen is, those railroad tracks. And those from Greenville, you know what I'm talking about, where the Coca-Cola place used to be. Okay. So I did this photo shoot with her, had her out there in white and this colorful umbrella. I thought I was doing a thing. Oh my God. You were. So I look back on that shoot now and I'm like, what in the world were you thinking? But anyway, and from there, I was just like, girl, you can do this. Like, yes, this is your thing. From there, I just started shooting. I did a lot of stuff for free when I first started. Yeah, we all did. Yeah, we all did. It wasn't until 2015, actually, that I decided, okay, what am I doing with this photography thing? Because I started with weddings. You know, everyone gets into photography and they're like, well, I'm going to do weddings because you're looking at, oh, I can make a whole bunch of money at one time. Decided, no, I hate weddings. Don't want to do them. I don't want to deal with the brides, even though I love weddings. I love to attend as a guest, but not as the photographer. So I started with weddings. I was just shooting just anything and everything, but weddings was like my thing. I'm like, I'm gonna be like the top wedding photographer, like in the world. Like, oh my God, do it. Yeah, do it. After about a year of doing that, I was like, no, this is not my life. So from there, I transitioned into other areas of photography. But like I said, 2015 was the year I was transitioning out of a marriage into single life again. And I was like, what am I doing with my life, with my photography business? Like, where is this going? What am I doing? And so for those that follow me on social media, you saw the whole I Am My Brand thing. You know, I had the t-shirts, I had the whole, and you know, I still have the t-shirts and all that stuff. But it was like, at that time, God was just like, before you can really build a business, like, you have to build yourself. Mm-hmm. So I got to a place where it was like, I started doing the inner work. Mm-hmm. After that, things in my business started to change. I started to get the clients that I really wanted. And it started to transition to more of the small business. The boudoir, it was just like, as the ideas came to me, it's just like, I was like, you know what, I'm taking the risk, I'm jumping, I'm doing it. And so September of last year, I decided, okay, now's the time for me to jump and go full-time in photography. Lord have mercy, what in the world was I thinking?
I'm telling you, I know.
Oh my God, like, Jesus, take the entire car. I'm like, no. Like, girl, are you crazy? Yeah. Like, most people that go full-time is like, you have a partner, so you got that backup system. I'm like, I'm out here by myself. I was with you in this water. Like, girl, get your life. So September last year was when I took the jump. I haven't regretted it. Has it been easy? No, it's not. So if you're thinking about going full time, make sure you got a plan in place before you do, because it's not easy. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. So that's my story and how I got started.
That's awesome. So I did space surveillance and missile, fun, boring stuff in the military, and got out of the military. Was married for a bit. Worked full-time jobs, was in DC, worked at the State Department, worked down the hall from Colvin Powell. So I have a huge military DC background. And then my ex and I went through a divorce, and I met my husband now. And I had always kind of enjoyed taking pictures. I have 3 children, so if you have children, and all 3 of mine are ADHD, I'm ADHD, so is my husband now, so I totally get it. But with 3 kids that are super hyper, trying to get them all to look at the camera at the same time, and somebody smile please, that was the concept. And I was like, well, I can just do this by myself. And so when I met my husband now, he was very supportive. So if you have somebody that's supportive in your life, that's amazing, and that makes such a huge difference. And of course, he joined the military, so we got stationed in El Paso. We had been in El Paso for 7 years, and I worked for a little bit trying to find a job, and couldn't find anything that I liked. I didn't speak Spanish. I still don't speak Spanish. And I had many people, especially the older men that were photographers in the community, tell me I will never have a job as a photographer. I would never succeed. I would never do anything. We're military. Why get started? You're going to move. Like, every reason you can think of. And so feeling that I'm in a male-dominated position, which I still believe that we're still fighting, that female photographers are just as good, if not better, than some of the male photographers out there. I took that on as a challenge. I was like, okay, fine. So I started competing because I believed that I needed that affirmation that what I was doing was good. And so I started going to WPPI and PPA and a couple other organizations and started competing. And then going to those events, I noticed that there were not any military-related portraits. So they would put up wedding portraits, all of, like, I know you guys were looking through your packets. I'm good friends with WHTC. But I went to their booth, and they're beautiful wedding portraits and beautiful family portraits and newborn photos, and not one military family. So I had a panic attack, had to leave the room, got super mad, and I was like, I'm going to make a change. Because if you find something that you don't like, you have to make a change yourself. That's the only way to do it. Like, don't rely on somebody else. Don't wait. Don't ask what if. Like, just do it. So I actually had talked to WHCC. That's how I started kind of focusing on those military portraits and those military families. And I'm glad to say this year, WHCC at PPA Imaging and WPPI had my portraits up in their booth. Mm-hmm. So you have to start making a change and finding that niche. Like, there just isn't a voice for the people that are military wives. And we have a very hard job as a military wife, much less being an entrepreneur and managing a business and managing your house. And then we just recently moved, so that was fun because now I have a whole new clientele that I have to work on building. And so it's a constant, ever-flowing river of change. How do I stay organized? How do I maintain everything? But my constant goal is when somebody tells me no, I'm going to do it. Just plain and simple.
Show them. Right. Absolutely. Well, that was great. But if you guys listen to their stories and notice, it's kind of like the same themes kind of flowing through. You know, you find a void in the market with whatever you enjoy doing, and you fill that void. I mean, that's really where you're going to find, you know, your passion, like what's going to keep you going is that passion you have, that connection you have with that void that needs to be filled. So, yeah, definitely, that was definitely a good takeaway. So the next question we have are, what are some of the challenges that you face along the way?
Oh, absolutely. That people telling you no. I mean, I get it all the time. Oh, you'll never do that. And then I'll come with a really good idea. Like, I just had a good idea, and I'm working on it. We have our first magazine coming out in July. I want to start a magazine called The Military Photographer. I am not the only person in my situation. And I know sometimes we feel so alone. And then when you feel alone, you feel like you want to give up because there's nobody that understands you, even a spouse. Like, my husband has no clue what I do. I don't know. But, I mean, he's so focused on his career that, you know, even going back to simple basics like 2 full-time careers, who cleans the dishes at night? Like, I got editing to do. He's been working since 4:30 in the morning. But, I mean, people kept telling me no, so now I want to start my magazine. And people are still like, yeah, it's too much, you can't handle it, you're never going to do it. And that's constant. And I just don't think that you're ever going to get away from somebody being a doubter, somebody's a hater, somebody wants to complain about something and then they want to put you down. And I think instead of letting it bother me, I have really focused on taking that and turning it around. And the best way to prove somebody wrong is to do it and do it well.
That's right. Yeah. I would probably say for me, the biggest challenge is me. For all of us, it's like we make up our minds that we want to do something and then we get in our heads. That's always been an issue for me. Because honestly, at the end of the day, it's like there's nothing you cannot do. It's already been done. Like, you see people doing it every day. You get in your own way. So for me, I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. The biggest challenge is me, or the biggest challenge is you. Get out your head. Like, take the risk. Jump out there, do it. If it fails, oh well, you learned a lesson in it. Try something else. Do it again. Whatever it might be, it's like you have to get out your own way. That's my biggest challenge.
One of, on the Quirktastic side, one of the biggest challenges was refocusing the mission after the rebrand. Brianna was telling me she was so nervous just to rebrand and kind of switch her mission because she wasn't sure about who was going to keep following her or who was going to, stay with her after the change. And also another point on that side was finding the audience. But one thing she kept in mind was, even though we do have a tagline for targeting millennials, we still invite and accept anyone. So my audience, or our audience, is anybody that wants to read or be a part of our group. So those are 2 of the challenges, I guess. And for myself personally, I'm happy to work with Quirktastic. But writing my own personal blog, it's interesting just trying to figure out how I can keep my voice in writing for somebody else. But luckily, at Quirktastic, she is very, 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 very understanding and supportive of the voices of her writers. So it's not kind of like going somewhere and having somebody shut you down or anything like that. We're willing to work with each other. And on the personal blog side, the hardest thing is, again, myself, getting into something and saying, oh, well, another male-dominated field. Men talk about music all the time. And if it's not a man writing for Complex or Fader or Vibe, It is the men, just regular old Facebook and Twitter goons talking about this sucks and this is bad. So really being able to stand out, A, as a positive force, and B, as a woman in a very negative male-dominated field is a challenge. But once you kind of get in tune with yourself and do the inner work, it doesn't bother you as much anymore.
I would say for me, my biggest challenge would probably be family support. If I were completely honest, even just I'm going to school in the fall to get my doctoral degree, and my grandmother, she told me, she said, "Why are you going back to school? You don't even use the degrees that you have."
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I was just like, what? Right. And I was just like, okay, you don't cuss your grandma, but you just be like, what, really? And so, just between, just the family, and I had to just really think about it, that my family really, and my father, they believe in going to work, and like they don't see this as a job. And so I make it a point now when they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm going to work." So even my friend, we were talking last week, I was like, "Girl, I have to go to work." She was like, "Where are you going?" So I just try to, just getting over that hurdle of just family support, and just even just allowing them to see like what I'm doing, and just everything. And so I think for me, that's probably honestly like family support, and them really understanding as a creative, like what do you do? Like my dad does not understand like I'm at home, like he doesn't get it. So they really believe in not necessarily clocking in, but having a solid income and
a constant paycheck.
A direct deposit. I'm like, I really would like a direct deposit too.
I don't want one.
Yeah, I really like those. But just that, just for me, honestly, my struggle is really my family. My family has been my hurdle for a very long time, but they're getting to see. But I had to start showing them contracts. So when I get on these planes, I'm going to work. So I think for my dad, it was just he needed to see like a contract with a payment amount. So then everything changed. It was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so yeah, like, oh, I didn't even realize that he had looked up. I was like, I sent him my itinerary, and I was like, okay, I'm going to Queen's Photography. He was like, I didn't even realize he had looked it up. He was like, oh, they fairly new. I was like, oh, you know something. You went to Google. So, I mean, for me, I think maybe for a lot of us, being a creative that is not a traditional job that is seen in our community is one that you look up to. And so for me, like being a teacher, that was cool. Like you can be a teacher, that was fine. But being a teacher that's not in the classroom is really strange for my family. Yeah.
For me, so starting out, the challenges were different than they are now. Definitely the biggest challenge starting out was financial. So starting out, I think I started with maybe 50 dresses in the store, and I have more now, but I have to buy every single dress that's in the store. And so inventory is it's the biggest expense for any bridal shop. And at that time, I thought I had a decent idea of my demographic, my target demographic, and I did, but it's so scary to invest that much money and not know really if those dresses are going to sell or not, or if they're just going to be sitting there on the hangers and just be dead inventory. And that is also tied into another challenge, which is building momentum. How do I spread the word and let people know that, Wildflower Bridal is now a shop that exists in town, and get people to come and shop? So I would say those were the two biggest challenges. Now, momentum's not really an issue, which is wonderful. You Google Asheville Bridal Shop and we'll come up. So we don't have an issue getting appointments and whatnot. And, cash flow is still, I mean, I think no matter how long you are in business, if you are the owner of your own business, cash flow is always going to be stressful. So it is something that always, keeps me up at night. Some months doesn't keep me up at night as much as others, just depending on, the patterns in the season. I would say now I have employees who work under me, and so just managing people under you, I find is just, anytime, I personally find that to be challenging. And then also, I'm so, I wouldn't say like I'm a control freak, but maybe I'm wrong. But maintaining the brand is really important to me, and so I want to make sure that the integrity of the brand is maintained throughout, and also with the people that are representing the brand and the employees as well, and how they present themselves in the store to customers and whatnot. But also just, the brand itself and social media and the lines that we carry. And then the other thing is, so I said before that, we specialize in boho, which I feel like, the boho trend is definitely like, everyone has seen it now, but 3.5, 4 years ago, it was not really a thing then. So it was much less mainstream then, and now it's like a challenge is trying to people I feel like are copying me a lot, and a personal challenge of mine is to not get as upset about it because it's just gonna happen. It's just the reality of it. And just to constantly be on the lookout for fresh new designers so that I'm ahead of the trends.
Can I bring up another point real quick? You were saying like about people copying you, and in the blog industry, and of course, I'm sure even with photography, anybody picks up a camera and they're a photographer. And I want to tell
Especially
you,
at Christmas.
I didn't even know Christmas or probably Easter or anything like that. But I'm wanting to tell you that a challenge of, you brought that up, and I didn't even think about it. A challenge of mine is still not getting upset, and because I'm 24. And I still look around, and there'll be a new blog that pops up that talks about music in Columbia, and I don't get mad. I'm mad in my head. But what I do is I then go out and reach out and I shake hands and I say, "Hi, I'm Candice. I've been blogging for 2 years." And normally what happens is that I'm upset in my head, but they ask me questions. They say, "Oh, wow, I've seen your blog and I really want to be like you." And that helps me not to be so angry because, everybody has a different story to tell. And the best thing to overcome that challenge is really to remember that you are the only one that can write your story. Nobody else can write it like you. And even if there is somebody else doing a similar thing that you do, nobody's going to write it like you do. And if you put your heart and your passion into that, it'll work and it'll succeed just fine. So I definitely feel like
God made wine for a reason.
We know.
So when that happens, just open a bottle. That's all that you need.
Couple bottles.
Imitation and plagiarism is
real.
I know we talked about it. It is a huge deal. Anybody else been to WPPI? Okay. They talked about it this year. It's a huge thing right now in any industry, and that people think, "Oh, I saw that idea and I'm going to go recreate it to the T."
Mermaids.
And that's okay. Like, no, that's not okay. So I also believe, and I know that we might be strange, but I think if it happens to you, that you're entitled to make a stand. Do it in a professional way. Do it in a classy way. But make sure that everybody knows that was done, because if we let somebody do it, they're going to continue to do it, and they're going to continue to do it. Get mad. There's a lot of times that I have said things I would never say out loud in my head, and drink wine. But I mean,
I journal.
Yeah, let somebody. Yeah, that's how you blog, because you journal. Right? But don't let it go. Don't let it don't say something. Stand up for yourself because nobody else in this industry will. So,
and pick your battles too. I would say. Yeah, sometimes it's not worth it. Like, talk about it to your friends and family, and figure out when which ones are good to pursue and which ones are just good to talk to your friends and family about, and then just kind of let simmer.
Let it go.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, so one, I'm a teacher.
She was getting me early on my notes.
Well, you came with notes. That was different. I'm taking notes. The overall topic is how to stand out in a saturated market, and I wanted to just bring to just what she says. Only you can write your story. And I know, like, all of you all are in this area together. And so if I Googled whatever the keyword would be for this area, then a multitude of you, all of you would probably show up. Or if I went to a hashtag on Instagram, all of you all will show up. And I know it's hard to say, okay, how can I be different when everyone in the room is in my particular area? But I think the most important part is that I can give you my location, I can give you my pricing guide, I can give you my lab, I can tell you who edits my pictures, I can give you my presets, I can tell you what camera and lens I use, the settings, I can tell you everything, but what you cannot duplicate is me.
Exactly. Yes.
And I will say, as a non-photographer here, like, I know nothing about the presets or like any. So, like, as a consumer of photography, like, I'm not concerned about that stuff. Like, I'm gonna go on Instagram and I have no idea what preset you're using or anything like that. I just like the photo.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Same.
So yeah, I like and so I'm someone who, like, I go and I look at the feed, and I just like, if the feed is consistent and has speaks a certain something, that is what speaks to me.
And to piggyback off of her, I'm glad you brought up that point, because I had to get out of the mindset of you're my competition.
Let's get out that comparing.
You're not my competition, because it's something about me that my clients like about me.
Right.
So there's never going to be a time where you're just like, oh my God, well, they doing the same thing I do. It's like they gonna keep going to them. Maybe it's something about them that they like, not so much as they might be cheaper or they might be more expensive or whatever it might be. It's like, you're you. You're the only one that has your fingerprints. So however you do you, do you. My clients are attracted to me because it's something with me that they just like. They might come to you and be like, I like your photos, but I don't know. It's some clients that I'll turn down that I'm like, we just don't mesh. So it's like, you have that option, you have that choice. You don't have to work with them. But at the end of the day, they're attracted to you. Not so much your photography. They're attracted to you. You are your product. Right. So just remember,
you are your
that.
brand. Just
exactly.
Like you said.
Right. You are.
It's a very personal relationship.
Right. I want to say one more thing. I'm going to address the elephant in the room about pricing.
Oh,
okay.
You're going to go there already?
I am.
It's only 10 o'clock.
I'm going to just say it up front. That lowering your price is not going to help you stand out in your market.
No.
That's not the answer to you can finish now, Toy. But I just wanted to say that, just thinking like, how can I stand out? And most people will say, just lower your price or have a mini session or do some random things. But that's not the answer. In other words, if you build a consistent brand, that's beautiful, and you have this relationship with your clients and everything is up to where it's supposed to be, then your clients will come. You don't have to jeopardize your price or your profit in order to get people in your door.
I'm gonna say like a very quick thing, I promise. And as a consumer, I just had an event, and I actually had hit up the Queen Photographers asking for somebody to do event photography in Columbia, and I think I didn't want to have anybody travel because I knew I couldn't afford it. But instead of saying, oh, can you just ask them to like maybe do it for $50 and then drive 2 hours and then do whatever, I just said, I know I probably can't afford it. I can't have you travel, so I'll try to do something local. But there's always enough money to go around. I ended up hiring 2 new photographers in Columbia, and I hope that I can recommend they're men. But and they were great. I really wanted a woman, but
we cussed a lot.
That's fine. But there is enough money to go around, and if people want quality, they will spend for it. They will save and they will spend.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, awesome. So one thing that I want to pick up that you all mentioned is kind of going back to, you know, finding yourself, finding your voice in your business or your brand, even through the challenges. Because I think one of the challenges we faced when we first started was just finding people. You know, we were trying to find more women of color photographers in South Carolina. And then as we grew and people were starting to ask us to come to other cities, our challenge then was, okay, well, we know there's black female photographers. We know there's a brown girl with a camera. So how do we stand out? How do we not appear to become as like a copycat of these groups that already exist? But our mission was different, and we didn't see that, and that was something, again, going back to trying to fill that void. That's what we continue to strive towards. Anytime we decide, you know, an event or anything that we want to host, we have to go back to the mission. Why did we start this in the first place? And it always has to go back to that. And so when we know, when we do something, that it's going to be us, it's going to be our voice, and we're continuing to drive on the mission that we set forth when we started the Photographers in the first place. So, okay. All right, the next question. So how do you encourage collaboration? Because, you know, we are in a room of...
She looked like she had something to say to me.
Well, that's an easy answer for me.
We're in a room with a lot of photographers, and we mentioned, you know, competition and try to get that whole idea out of your head. And that was another thing we wanted to hone in with the photography. So how do you encourage collaboration while creating a brand that's unique to you?
So for me, being a bridal shop, you know, photographers reach out to me all the time. I've done a shoot with Latoya. That's how Latoya and I met. And I think I would consider myself pretty easy to work with, because I feel like I get so much out of lending dresses to photographers for styled shoots. I have a few stipulations. One is I don't like to lend out gowns on Saturdays, because those are the busiest days of the store, and I only have one of each gown, so that gown being out of the store means a possible missed sale for me. Right. Two, I just ask that the people that are at the shoot are careful with the dress and don't return it with like tons of mud stains and whatnot, and that if there are stains, that whoever is the one that's originally asking for the dress to be loaned, if it's the photographer, that they pick up the dry cleaning bill if I look at it and say, oh, it needs dry cleaning. But yeah, I mean, as long as I am able to have the photos and use them whenever I want, and, you know, if I'm posting on social media, of course I'll credit, but like if I'm, you know, posting them on my website, I don't really have an appropriate place to credit. So as long as everyone's okay with that, like I'm down with lending gowns out to shoots. I just always make sure ahead of time that I feel like it's a good fit. And, you know, if there's a Pinterest board, I always ask for them to let me see the Pinterest board, and just to make sure that, again, like that I feel like it's a good fit, and that stylistically it makes sense, and that the photographer or, you know, the shoot is not something extremely traditional or something that's not really the customer that I'm speaking to.
We were talking about finding your voice, and collaboration for us obviously is vendors, right? So who do we work with? What's your market? Who's the top vendor in your market? And if you guys, those that have not been able to go to a convention, I highly recommend it, because then you meet that vendor in person. So you're talking to them one-on-one. And so when I started to ask for sponsors, so like right now Tamron sponsors me, 17 Hat sponsors me, I'm an ambassador for Spider Holster. I literally went up to them and said, this is what I shoot, this is what I'm doing. I know that my work is ready to show them. Like, I have it ready on my phone, I have it ready on their website. Like, I'm prepared. I walked through the first day and picked out every vendor I wanted to talk to. That was it. That's all I did. I didn't buy. I wasn't there to shop. I was there to network. And then I went the next day and I literally hit up every one of the tables that I wanted to talk to. And if you make that professional appearance to those vendors, they really appreciate that, and then they'll take you serious, because there's a lot of people that go through, and you can tell the people that really know what they're doing and are ready to move on to that next step, and then you know the photographers that they're just brand new, or you're shy. You can't be shy in this industry. If you're going to go out and you're going to put yourself out there and you want a voice, you can't do it shyly. And it just seems like I wouldn't be really loud and obnoxious, but I mean, like, always be that professional person, but reaching out to the vendors and having that one-on-one conversation, and they want it too, because vendors want those photos back. So when I do an event, they want those photos. 17 Hats is a sponsor for this event. You bet they're going to see some of these photos. I mean, because they want that too. So you remember that you're getting something too, but they're getting something, and it's a give and take relationship. And even working with other photographers in the community. If there's another photographer, I really love newborns. Maternity I'm getting there. So I'm going to team up with a maternity photographer, and we're going to do a workshop. It benefits them, it benefits me. Make sure that you're both getting something out of it, and be collaborative. There's nothing wrong with being collaborative.
I'm going to throw out one more thing, specifically with like styled shoots that have a wedding theme to them. Keep in mind the specific vendors that you ask. They're going to have, like, the particular things that they're contributing are going to be of different value. So, like, for a photographer, it's going to be time, time shooting the day of, and time editing, and, using your equipment and whatnot. For a vendor like me, it's loaning the dress out and whatnot. Florists, though, like, that's actually probably quite expensive for them for those flowers, and also like food. So just keep that in mind when you're asking certain vendors, that like that is asking quite a bit when you're asking florists and caterers, and if they're someone who's providing drinks or whatnot. And I would also say, like, if someone says no, like, that's okay too, like, and don't take it personally.
I would probably say, as far as collaboration, make sure you build genuine relationships with people. What I've run into is, like, I've met a lot of people. I know when I first got into photography, it was a lot of people that I reached out to. Do you think they accepted friend requests or return phone calls or emails? No. It's crazy. It really is. So building genuine relationships with people, that has helped me a lot. Last year I had the opportunity to travel and do some work with BET during their Fair and Front tour last year. And that came from me building a genuine relationship with a photographer that was out of Spartanburg. And make sure that it's something that builds your portfolio. Some people may just want you to shoot with them just because you can shoot, and it's for their agenda. So make sure that whatever it is building your brand as well. Don't take something that's going to be, like, if you're a wedding photographer and they're like, oh, I want to do this shoot with children. How is that benefiting you? Like, how is that going in your portfolio anywhere? So make sure that any relationship that you build as far as collaboration, one, is helping to build your brand, and two, that you're building a genuine relationship, not that whole mentality of what can I get out of this. Because I've been there, I've done it. It's like, ooh, if I hook up with this person, that's gonna take me. No, it's not. You know what I'm saying? No, it's really not. So make sure you build genuine relationships with people.
I would. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm going to piggyback on that real. My husband and I, we don't, like I said, we don't see eye to eye sometimes on exactly how my business should be ran. And I don't know if you guys have been through that, right? But one of the very first things we agreed on is that I am my business and my business is me. And so going to that genuine relationship, what you post on your personal Facebook page and who you let on your personal Facebook page will affect that relationship. Because if they see your business as one thing, especially when we went through that whole the political thing, we're not going to talk politics, but, like, you have to remember that people watch you, and the more you grow and the more your business moves up, the more they're going to watch, and they'll evaluate every little thing. I hate dressing up. I don't wear a dress, and I have been told that I will never succeed because I won't wear a suit. I'm like, but you can kiss something. But that perception will make a relationship that you might have thought genuine might not be so much. So, I mean, and that goes both ways too. So I watch people and what they put on their Facebook page too. So just think about that too when you're doing those relationships.
And the reason that I'm here is because of a collaboration. I got my gig at Quirktastic because I wrote a guest post for Quirky Brown when it was Quirky Brown Love. And Brianna said, "Oh, I really like your writing. Will you come write for Quirktastic?" And when she told me that, I was like, "Dad, what you mean?" Like, I've been eyeing the blog for a long time, and I was like, "Wow, I am so inspired by the way that she writes." And when she asked me, I was like, "Of course, I'm going to do that." And the collaborations that come from that, she's open to collaborating with anybody, and she's friends with. There's an online business called Adorned by Chi, and she makes a bunch of different T-shirts and pins and cute accessories and things. And us being younger, we made friends on the internet, so they made a genuine relationship literally over the internet, but but they're close friends. And she said, I mean like super like babies. I don't. You know what I meant.
We're not with you.
It's cool. But she made like a true friendship via the internet, and when she quit her job, she called her up and was going through her the conversation that she had quitting her job and stuff like that. So we've kind of made these collaborations, and she reaches out to anyone, basically any woman or even male of color that is doing something that matches up with her mission. And so just another point adding about collaborations is know the expected outcome. So just like Keisha was saying, know that you're not necessarily, okay, I'm going to just collaborate and then they'll follow me, I'm going to see my numbers soar, or we're going to collaborate and something else will come. Just discuss what is actually going to come out of it, and 9 times out of 10 you'll definitely get the expected results because you already know what's going to happen.
Come on with the notes. I have ADD too, so I'll be having to keep up. I'll be like, what are we talking about? So what are we talking about? Building a relationship. Okay, I told you I had to write it down. With your competitor. That's what I wrote down. Be a giver, not just a taker. Yeah. Because sometimes people come to you to collaborate or be your photography friend, and they have a hidden agenda. And so y'all know it, like y'all did this before. Okay, all right. So just working with other people. I am friends with almost every photographer in Houston, and I see them all the time. Like we'll go out to eat. If there's a client, like for us the referrals go back and forth. It's not just a one-way street. Does that make sense? So if somebody's like constantly asking you for your locations or asking you where you get that from, are you giving me something back?
Right.
So just making sure that if you're building a relationship with someone that is really truly authentic, and not someone out just to get all of your information, so they can build their business off of yours. Yeah.
Lastly, I'm going to say, apparently I do have a lot to say about it. Going back to photo shoots, when you're working with other vendors, I think it's always helpful for everyone involved if, and kind of going back to expectations too, for you as a photographer to ask the other vendors involved if there's any particular photos that they would love to have after the shoot. For example, I have like a little pet peeve where and they make beautiful photos with like the bride in the wedding dress, and she's holding a huge bouquet of flowers, and the flowers are very like organic looking, and they're just kind of cascading over and pouring out and it's really beautiful, but it's covering the entire dress, so it defeats the purpose for me. So I always ask for a few photos vertically oriented without the bouquet that take the entire dress. So just
that makes sense for you.
So ask the vendors if they have like a shot list.
It's just too much.
Is that one more reason not to shoot a wedding?
Yes.
This sounds so stressful.
Now we
baby
stressful.
any day. No.
So with all of you, everyone's photographers here. We have a lot of bloggers, a lot of stylists. Why do you feel that your clients or customers choose you specifically?
Oh dear goodness. I don't want to go first.
I would say I will go first for that because it's going back to doing the inner work and they come for me. A lot of people come to see positive on my personal blog side. They come to see positive music reviews. So, like I said, a lot of times you'll get on the internet and it's just a whole bunch of this sucks and I didn't like this album and his first album was better and whatever. But they come to see somebody actually just speak positively about music. And just from a refreshing point of view, the title of my blog is called "But I'm Not a Critic," though, and the acronym is BINAC. So it just means. I didn't know that. I'm sorry. But it really is like I position myself truly to not be a critic. Like I don't like saying, well, something was either good or bad. I just want to talk to you about how I felt about it and that it was refreshing for me and uplifting for me. And so, for instance, like if I were doing it for photography, I wouldn't say, that one shoot with the wedding dress, like the flowers were everywhere and they were a different color and the dress was ugly. I'd say, I really like that dress. And Margaux did a great job, putting together the shoot or picking the model for the dress or whatever. So it's all about the perspective that people come for me to see because it's something that they can't get anywhere else. And I love being able to give that to an audience. And the same thing with Quirktastic. There's nobody else that can write about a quirky millennial experience better than Brianda when she's targeting her audience. And so they come to see positive, consistent work. And that's another thing, consistency, but consistency and from the heart, not necessarily doing it just to, get a couple clicks or anything like that.
Right.
I'm going to drop two resources really quick. One is the mission and vision statement from Leadership by Dave Ramsey. That is like 4 or 5 sheets on a PDF, but it allows you to do your vision and your mission statement for your business, and that just that will set you apart and kind of keep you laser focused if that person is particularly your client or not. And then what I think everybody should have is a differentiation statement. And you can get that download. It's a branded PDF from Cheers Creative. From that, that's what people are going to come to you for because it's something that you have that no one else can offer. And so you have to figure out what is it that you offer, even if it's just your personality. Yeah. What is it that you offer someone that someone else is not providing? Like filling that void. So for me, you get whatever I get. This is what it's gonna be. I only look like this when I'm speaking.
I'm right there with you. Yeah,
that's it. I have my extra clothes in the back. Like once I'm done, like I'm finished. But people know what they're gonna get from me. At all the time, I'm always consistent.
Be authentic.
Yeah, I'm authentic all the time. So they're like, if they see me on Facebook, oh, that's what I'm supposed to look like today. That's normal. They see me 20 minutes from now, she back to normal. You know what I'm saying? Like these lashes will be off, everything, all this will be gone. 20 minutes from now, you're like, oh, that's you? Yep, still me. So just being authentic, and I think people just coming to you knowing what to expect. My clients expect from me a level of quality, a level of excellence. Regardless of if I have on Chucks or red bottoms, it don't matter.
We're still be friends.
Yeah, yeah. So you have it's the same level. It's just consistency from me. They know what to expect. Like that's it.
Now I will say though, being consistent is really hard when you move.
Yeah.
So that has been a super big challenge. But it goes back to you have to know who you are. I know I'm patient. I have been told I have the patience of Job, and my response is you should meet my husband and my children, and then you understand why I'm so patient. But you have to know who you are, because if you don't know who you are, you're not gonna. My move, I can move to the North Pole, and I'm still gonna be me, and I'm still gonna shoot the same way. But giving myself some grace to change and flow. And I think, we get, especially in a position where we're the one sitting in the chair, everybody's like, oh, Tara's like this, and then it's like, but Tara doesn't really want to be like that. Don't stick me in a box. Like, it's okay to grow. It's okay to try new things.
Yeah.
It's okay to fail a lot. But like really, you know, if I didn't know who I was, I didn't know where my faith was. We haven't talked about faith, and I don't know if we're that kind of group. But if you don't know where your faith is, I mean, there's been some challenging moments, and I'm sure anybody who's been an entrepreneur understands. Like, there are times where I could cry. This is not going the way I planned. I have worked so hard on this, and I look up and I'm like, okay, God must know what He's doing.
Clearly.
So we'll follow that path. So knowing yourself and knowing your faith and being founded in it and secure in it and moving on that way.
It's just like they come for you. And we talked about that earlier. It's like they come for you. They see that consistency. Don't switch it up because you're trying to follow a trend. There's always going to be somebody that's going to be better.
She's going to be a trendsetter.
I mean, that's different. But when it comes to photography, it's like everything really. It's like things are always changing, you know, and then you find yourself, okay, well, I need to do this now because, you know, this is what's popping. No, people don't always want what's popping. They want that classic. They want a good image with a good edit. The post. And sometimes people don't even want that. They want an iPhone image, but some of those are pretty good. Or they want, you know, or they want that photo with the ugly filter on it. I know y'all can.
Kept editing. Wait, hold on, pause. Wait a minute. Flag on the play. Candice just said she wanted the raw photos. Listen, Candice,
I didn't mean to offend you, but that's okay. Well, because he was.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
When I get off this mic. Yeah, when I get unrecorded.
He kept sitting in the back with these edits, and I was like, I don't want this.
But don't ever ask for the raw again. Don't do that.
Okay, I won't do that. I didn't know.
I'm gonna hold you close, but don't do that ever again.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, just be you. Keep doing you. That's what they're attracted to.
Yeah. And I just wanted to point one thing is that allow yourself to fail. It's gonna be some times where it is completely up.
And sometimes.
Okay. And you wonder, what was I thinking?
Right.
This was wrong. I should not have taken on this client. I should not have charged her this much. What was I thinking when I said I would deliver you 100 files by tomorrow? I don't even know what I was thinking. I needed to eat. I don't even know what happened.
Now I'm at a computer.
And I don't like you anymore. So
now I'm stuck.
Right. Just allow yourself to fail. Literally. And my son, so randomly, he said, I was like, oh, I failed. He was like, no, mommy. I was like, well, come through, son. What you got? And he said, mommy, your fail means your first attempt in learning.
Yes!
This is my son. He's 9.
Come on! He knows!
I'm his mama.
You did that. You did that.
I did by myself. Mostly by myself. But this truly, really first attempt in learning. So if you go out and you do a shoot and it's terrible, nobody knows. Just don't post it. Like you don't have to tell the whole world your business. Like some stuff, if you would try a lighting setup. Right, Kim will tell you every time you go to set up a lighting, you might think this is gonna be great, and you're like, oh no, I was behind the scenes. Delete. Okay, it never existed, and go try again. Like it's totally okay. This is an ever growing process. Like you're not gonna wake up today and be Mozart. Today, it's like it's not gonna happen. You're gonna consistently keep growing. Your style will change. Your brand will evolve. So, and it's totally okay for you to look back at your first logo, your first picture, and just say that might have been a fail back then. But but you kept growing, and I think that we have to allow ourselves that grace to make mistakes and to fail.
And to piggyback off of that, like not only are mistakes like wonderful learning opportunities, but sometimes things will happen that are outside of your control that will feel like huge catastrophes that really can be wonderful opportunities for change and growth. And an example of that for me personally was about 2 years ago, one of probably my best-selling designer at the time, I'm going to make this story like very abbreviated, basically pulled the rug out from under me and all of a sudden just completely ended the relationship with me for really not a very good reason, and did something like super unethical, and again, it was my best-selling designer, so I was like really kind of leaning on this designer, to keep the business going, and all of a sudden I had all this inventory from this designer. I couldn't take reorders on these dresses or anything, and I just as soon as that phone call ended, I went into the dressing room and just started hysterically crying for about 20 minutes. I am not a crier at all. I called my mom, and as soon as she picked up the phone, I just was like crying. And so the designer's initials are SS, and so from now on, whenever something like that happens, which is very rare, I just I always say to my employees I SS'd it. That means I ugly cried. I had a moment like that. But since then, I was searching night and day for a new designer to kind of fill that void, and I had found a designer, and it was kind of an obscure designer in Poland, and we are now the only store that carries that designer. It's one of our top-selling designers, and we sell her left and right, and it's it was really a dream come true, and so sometimes it's outside of your control, and it's really a blessing in disguise. And I haven't had a chance to answer the question of what kind of the question I think was what separates you from others. I think so. For me, I think having a good website, I feel like your website these days is really your first impression. I remember, again, when I was a bride, I would, go online, and if I did not, respond to someone's website, I just kind of writ that business off right away. So I feel like having a good website is key. Word of mouth, I find, is really powerful, at least in this community. Again, I've been in business for 3.5 years now, and I would say 50 to 65% of my customers have people that are either friends or family members or whatnot who have referred them to us, in addition to having good Google reviews, which also really helps with SEO. So I highly recommend working on getting Google reviews. It's so easy. It's amazing, if you think about even just 10 years ago, how much you had to invest in paid advertising. Now you don't really have to invest that much. I mean, just through Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest, you just pay per click. It's pretty minimal. And then Google, I mean, that stuff is free for the most part. So let your customers advertise for you. So Google reviews, and again, differentiating yourself is really creating that niche for yourself, I would say, more than anything, which is kind of coming full circle on how we started the discussion.